The rain came down in thick, relentless sheets, turning the asphalt of Hollow Road into a shimmering black ribbon under Helen Parker's headlights. The wipers thumped a frantic rhythm, barely keeping up. It was past midnight, and the highway was deserted, just the way she liked it. No traffic, no distractions, just the hum of her old Toyota's engine and the occasional flicker of lightning in the distance. Helen had always been the kind of person who trusted her instincts. At 27, she'd learned the hard way that gut feelings existed for a reason. But tonight, exhaustion blurred her judgment. She'd just finished a double shift at the diner, her feet aching, her eyelids heavy. All she wanted was to get home, peel off her damp uniform, and collapse into bed. That's when she saw her, a figure standing beneath a flickering street lamp, soaked to the bone, one arm outstretched in a desperate plea for help. Even through the downpour, Helen could see the woman's pale face, her dark hair plastered to her cheeks, her eyes wide with something between relief and terror. Helen slowed. She shouldn't stop. Everyone knew the stories about Hollow Road, the disappearances, the hitchhikers who were never seen again. But the woman looked so normal, just a stranded traveler, maybe a broke college student, her car broken down somewhere in the storm. Against her better judgment, Helen rolled down the window. "Please," the woman gasped, her voice trembling. My car broke down a mile back. I've been walking for an hour. Can you just take me to the next gas station?" Helen hesitated. The woman's hands were shaking, her lips blue from the cold. She wore a thin jacket, no bag, no phone in sight. Something about her seemed off, but the storm was getting worse, and leaving her out here felt cruel. "Get in," Helen said finally. The woman, Lila, she introduced herself, sagged into the passenger seat with a shuddering sigh. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea how long I've been out there." Helen turned up the heat, watching Lila from the corner of her eye. The woman was rubbing her hands together, her nails bitten down to the quick. There was a faint smell clinging to her, something metallic like wet pennies. "So, where's your car?" Helen asked, trying to sound casual. Lila's fingers stilled. "Just back there. Engine gave out. I think it's the alternator." Helen nodded, but the explanation felt flimsy. If her car had broken down, why hadn't she called for help? Why was she just standing there in the middle of nowhere? The silence stretched. The rain drummed harder. Then Lila shifted in her seat, and Helen caught it. The glint of something tucked into the waistband of her jeans. A knife? A phone? Her pulse kicked up. "You okay?" Lila asked suddenly, tilting her head. Her voice was soft, but there was something underneath it, something calculating. "Yeah," Helen lied, "just tired." A beat passed, then Lila reached into her pocket. Helen's breath hitched. But all Lila pulled out was a pack of gum. "Want one?" Helen forced a smile, "No thanks." The road ahead was swallowed by darkness, the trees pressing in on either side like silent watchers. Helen's fingers tightened on the wheel. She needed to get this woman out of her car. Now. "There's a gas station about 5 minutes up," she said, her voice too bright. "I'll drop you there." Lila didn't answer. Helen glanced over and froze. Lila was staring at her, not at her face, at her throat, and she was smiling. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Actually," Lila murmured, "I think we should take a detour." Helen's blood turned to ice. "What?" Lila's hand moved fast, too fast. The glint Helen had seen earlier was a knife, and now it was pressed against her ribs. "Turn left at the next road," Lila whispered, "or I'll gut you right here." Helen's mind screamed. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. But the blade bit deeper, and she had no choice. She turned left. The road narrowed, the trees closing in like prison bars. The headlights illuminated a dirt path, overgrown and unused. Helen's hands shook. She was being taken somewhere. somewhere no one would hear her scream. "Why are you doing this?" she choked out. Lila's laugh was a soft, chilling sound. "Because you stopped." Ahead, a decrepit farmhouse loomed out of the darkness, its windows boarded up, its porch sagging. A single rusted swing creaked in the wind. Helen's breath came in short, panicked bursts. This was it. She was going to die here. But then a miracle. A deer bolted across the road. Helen jerked the wheel on instinct, sending the car skidding. The knife nicked her side as Lila lurched, her head smacking the window. Helen didn't think, she moved. She wrenched the door open and ran. The woods swallowed her whole. Branches clawed at her arms, roots tripped her, but she didn't stop. Behind her, Leela's scream tore through the night. "You bitch, I'll find you!" Helen sobbed, her lungs burning. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she couldn't stop. Because if she did, the woman with the knife would catch her. And then the real nightmare would begin. Helen's legs burned as she crashed through the underbrush. Her breath ragged, her heart slamming against her ribs. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves sent fresh terror shooting through her. She could still hear Lila behind her, boots pounding the earth, her voice a venomous hiss cutting through the trees. "You can't hide from me, Helen. I know these woods better than you." Helen whimpered, pressing a hand to her bleeding side where the knife had grazed her. The pain was sharp, but fear drowned it out. She needed to think, needed to survive. The abandoned farmhouse was long out of sight, swallowed by the forest. The storm had eased, but the air was still thick with moisture, the moon a pale, sickly glow behind the clouds. Helen's clothes clung to her, heavy with rain and sweat. She crouched behind a fallen tree, trembling, straining to listen. Had she lost her? Then a twig snapped. Helen's breath caught. Too close. She dropped lower, her pulse roaring in her ears, footsteps slow, deliberate. Come out," Leela sang softly. Helen squeezed her eyes shut. Don't make a sound, don't move, don't breathe. A flashlight beam cut through the darkness, sweeping over the trees. It passed inches above Helen's head. She bit her lip hard enough to taste blood. Then, miraculously, the footsteps faded. Helen didn't wait, she bolted. She ran blindly, branches whipping at her face, her shoes slipping in the mud. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to put as much distance between herself and that thing with Lila's face as possible. Then headlights. A road. Helen sobbed in relief, stumbling toward the pavement. Maybe someone would see her. Maybe she could flag down a car. A hand clamped over her mouth. Helen's scream was muffled as she was yanked backward into the trees. "Shh!" a man's voice whispered in her ear, his breath hot and rancid. "You're gonna ruin the game." Helen thrashed, her vision blurring with tears. No. Lila wasn't alone. The man, tall with a jagged scar across his cheek, dragged her deeper into the woods, his grip bruising. Helen kicked, twisted, but he only laughed, low and cruel. Feisty, I like that. Lila emerged from the shadows, her knife glinting. Told you I'd find her. Helen's knees gave out. This was it. She was gonna die in these woods, and no one would ever know what happened to her. But then a sound. Car engine. Lila's head snapped toward the road. Someone's coming. The man cursed, shoving Helen to the ground. Keep her quiet. Lila pressed the knife to Helen's throat. Make a sound and I'll slit you open right here. Helen trembled, tears streaming down her face. The headlights grew brighter, closer. This was her only chance. She had to take it. With a desperate scream, Helen threw herself forward, knocking Lila off balance. The knife grazed her shoulder, but she didn't stop. She ran. Stop her, Lila shrieked. Helen burst onto the road just as the car screeched to a halt. A man jumped out, middle-aged, bewildered. "What the hell? Help me," Helen sobbed, collapsing against him. "They're trying to kill me." The man's eyes widened as Lila and her partner emerged from the trees. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Lila smiled, sweet, innocent. "Oh my God, are you okay? We've been looking everywhere for you." Helen's stomach dropped. No, he couldn't believe her. The man hesitated, glancing between them. Then Lila took a step forward. That was all it took. Helen's rescuer shoved her into the car. "Get in, now." The doors locked just as Lila lunged, her knife scraping the window. The tires squealed as the car peeled away, leaving the monsters behind. Helen collapsed into the seat, shaking, bleeding, but alive. The man glanced at her. "What the hell were you doing out here?" Helen opened her mouth, then froze. The radio was playing softly. The same song that had been playing in her car when she picked up Leela. Her blood ran cold. The man smiled. "You really should be more careful who you trust." Helen's breath caught in her throat as the man's words slithered into her ears. The radio, the same song. Her fingers dug into the car seat, her pulse hammering so hard she could feel it in her teeth. This wasn't over. The man kept driving, his knuckles white on the wheel, his eyes flicking to her in the rearview mirror. The smile never left his face. "Relax," he said smoothly. "You're safe now." "Liar." Helen's mind raced. The doors were locked. The car was moving too fast to jump. She was trapped again. Then she saw it. A glint of metal near the man's hip. A gun. Her stomach twisted. She had to think fast. Thank you," she stammered, forcing her voice to shake. I thought they were going to kill me." The man chuckled. "Oh, they were." The confirmation sent icy fingers down her spine. She had to act. Helen doubled over suddenly, clutching her stomach. "Oh God, I think I'm going to be sick." The man grimaced. "Don't you dare puke in my—" Helen lunged. Her fingers closed around the gun just as he swerved. The car veered violently, tires screeching. Helen yanked the weapon free, but the man grabbed her wrist, slamming it against the window. Pain exploded up her arm, but she held on. "Stupid bitch," he snarled. The car careened off the road, plowing through underbrush. A tree loomed ahead. Crash. The airbag exploded in the man's face. Helen was thrown forward, the seatbelt cutting into her collarbone. Dazed, she tasted blood, but the gun was still in her hand. The man groaned, his nose broken, blood streaming down his face. He turned toward her, eyes wild. Helen didn't hesitate. She pulled the trigger. The shot was deafening. The man jerked, a dark bloom spreading across his chest. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then he slumped, his head hitting the wheel. The horn blared into the night. Helen fumbled with the seatbelt, her hands slick with sweat and blood. She kicked the door open and tumbled onto the ground, gasping. The woods surrounded her, silent and watchful. But she wasn't safe yet. Somewhere out there, Lila was still hunting. Headlights appeared in the distance. Helen's heart stopped. Another car, friend or foe. She raised the gun, her arms shaking. The car slowed. A woman's voice called out, "Oh my God, are you okay? We heard a gunshot." Helen's finger hovered over the trigger. She couldn't trust anyone, not after tonight. But the woman stepped out, hands raised. She was older, her face lined with concern. A child peered from the back seat. Helen's resolve cracked. She lowered the gun and sobbed. The woman rushed forward. "It's okay, honey. You're safe now. We're calling the police." As sirens wailed in the distance, Helen collapsed into the woman's arms. It was over. Or was it? Because as the police lights flickered through the trees, Helen's blood ran cold at the sound of a familiar voice on the officer's radio. "All units be advised. Female suspect, dark hair, answers to Lila, last seen near Hollow Road. Approach with caution. Suspect is extremely dangerous. And then faint but unmistakable laughter. Leela's laughter, coming from the woods. Did Zoe truly escape, or is Lila still out there, waiting for her next victim? If you enjoyed this bone-chilling tale of terror, don't forget to subscribe for more twisted stories that will haunt your dreams. And remember, next time you see a hitchhiker on a lonely road, keep driving. Because not all strangers need your help, but some are hungry for it. Until next time, lock your doors.